morning, friends. I'm Daniel Claremont. I'm the Acadian therapist. Welcome back here to the channel. I am really excited to share that we are up to nearly 250 subscribers. Given the fact that, gosh, 5 months ago I had never filmed a video. Now that we're up to 250 subscribers, I'm very touched by the faith that you have in me and that you find value in this content. So thank you so much. So this week, we're going to be talking about Therapy 101 stuff. Basically, I was thinking that there's a number of questions that tend to come up regularly. They come up on TikTok. They also come up regularly in sessions. And so I thought, well, it might be helpful to just do a video about some things that I thought people might want to know going into therapy. And so in no particular order, here we go. First off, what is the point of counseling? Very good question, and the answers are going to be different for pretty much everybody. But the simple version of it would be, if you want to improve the quality of your life, improve your ability to respond to situations that you're in maybe a more effective way. Now, by effective, I would say ways that help you solve problems that you're facing better, or maybe experience less frustration or pain, maybe experiencing less tension in relationships, maybe to have a clearer sense of what you want out of life. So what are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? Sometimes it's a way of accepting or working through really hard feelings that seem like they're very overwhelming and very powerful. Sometimes it's dealing with addictions, dealing with unhealthy habits and patterns of behavior. You get the idea. I could talk for 10 minutes just about that topic. So what's the difference between a registered professional versus some other professionals? So the truth is, a lot of folks can call themselves counselors, and folks do a lot of good that way, frankly. There's a lot of ways that people can help. So there's a lot of great listeners and supporters out there, people that bring a lot of love and heart and genuineness to the work that they do. And of course, those people are absolutely helpful. So why would you go through the trouble and expense of somebody that's a registered professional? Well, what does registration mean? Would be a good thing to talk about. So I'm a registered professional, which means for me to offer the services I offer, I have to have a certain amount of schooling, certain credentials that I have to maintain. So I'm Daniel Claremont, MSW, RSW. So that means Master of Social Work, and that means a registered social worker, which means that the province that I'm in licenses me to offer the services that I offer. And the services that I offer have to meet very strict criteria. So they have to be based on evidence and research that has been proven to help people accomplish the goals that they're looking for. Evidence-based practice. This is a catchphrase. You see it a lot with professionals, and yes, it is part of the requirements of what we do. So what this means is a lot of folks, researchers, have studied certain approaches, certain ways to deliver techniques that have been measured to improve the quality of life for a lot of folks. And so as a registered professional, this is a lot of the approaches that I use. However, it's important to bear in mind that when we say evidence-based practice, it means stuff that people have thought to study, they've thought to measure it a certain way, with certain populations, at a certain point in time. And so it is important, it is valuable, I do believe in it, but also we need to be flexible with it, because people are unique and situations change. And so the idea of evidence and research, well, if we think about science, well, I love science. Science is curious about the way the world works, but science is always saying, well, this is what we think works so far. And then as we keep going, our understanding evolves, and we'll change things as we go. And sometimes that means pulling stuff from the past. So I find a lot of modern counseling approaches actually borrow or steal, if you will, a lot of very important knowledge from very ancient civilizations and faith traditions and whatnot. So evidence-based practice is a moving target. And this is why, as a registered professional, I'm always learning, I'm always studying different things, as anybody that's a registered professional is required to do. Getting started in therapy is almost always weird. It is awkward. And that's one thing I like to name at the beginning, because you're coming to see a perfect friggin' stranger to talk about some of the most personal, awful things that you've ever been through. Gee, you think that's going to be awkward? Of course it is. Therapy is a relationship like any other, and it takes time to build some of that trust. In fact, I will often be interrupting clients if they go too much into depth in a first session, because I haven't earned the privilege to hear those personal stories yet. It takes time to build that trust and that connection. So give yourself that time. I can understand the desire to rush, especially if you're paying for therapy. Some forms of therapy are free, which is really great. In Nova Scotia, we do have some free services. I talk about them on my website. But especially if you're paying out of pocket, there can be that feeling of, well, let's get it sorted. Especially, people are not coming to chat about idle things. They're coming to talk to me about stuff that really, really has tortured them in some cases for years or decades in some cases. So of course, they want to get to the bottom of it as quickly as possible. So do I. But it takes time to build that rapport, to build that relationship. If you don't do the homework, if you don't do the tasks, fine, that is okay. So often we beat ourselves up. We say like, oh, I'm sorry, Daniel, I didn't do the thing that you told me, or I didn't look up the video. That's fine. That's okay. Maybe it's useless for you. Maybe it wasn't the right time. Maybe you need to think a little bit more about it. Maybe you're not ready for it yet. Or maybe it's not the right fit for you. I consider, the way that I think about it is, I have a big old toolbox. Well, sometimes you need the wrench, and sometimes you need the hammer, sometimes you need the screwdriver. So there's lots of different approaches, and what I like to do in sessions, and a lot of clinicians will do this, is they'll switch it up. So they will adjust based on the needs of the client and based on the needs of the situation. And sometimes new things happen. So we were working on an old trauma piece, but a new crisis happened. We're going to focus on the crisis, because of course we are, right? We have to be flexible to respond to what life is giving us in this time. I'm thinking about firing my therapist. Fine, that is okay. People come to see me after they've fired their therapist. People see other therapists after they've fired me. So maybe that's okay. I'd say most of the time that's okay. Therapy is a relationship like any other. Sometimes relationships need to end, and sometimes that's not comfortable. Sometimes it ends because the fit isn't right. Sometimes that's because the therapist is screwed up. And by the way, if the therapist screws up really badly, it's important to know that you can lodge complaints with their regulatory body. So wherever they're licensed, you can make a complaint, and especially if they're doing things that seem unethical, if they seem wrong. Very important, if you're able, to make a report about that, because, well, they may not know that they're doing something wrong, but regardless, the reason that they're registered is protection of the public. That is a core principle. And so if I was doing something that was harmful for others, I would want to know it, and I wouldn't want to keep doing it. So ideally, you can talk to the person about it, and if you have to, you can lodge a complaint with where they're registered. And if none of that feels right, or if it's not that extreme, even just walking away and saying, this is not right for me. Now, sometimes people do walk away because the work is hard. So it's maybe a hard phase of the work. So sometimes that can be a bit of avoidance. Entirely possible. So if you think that might be the case, it might be worth doing a little bit of soul searching. I find that there are sometimes therapists are at risks of doing some gaslighting with this. So sometimes if something's not going well with a client, sometimes it can be easy for a clinician to go, well, okay, but you realize that the work is hard and maybe you're just avoiding doing the deep work. Well, maybe you are. Maybe the therapist is missing something. Maybe there's something wrong with the relationship. It could be a lot of reasons. So you should always feel free to consider ending a therapy relationship if it doesn't feel right, especially if it doesn't feel right. But also do yourself the favor of doing some soul searching, some reflection about why do you want to do it? What's actually going on there? I want to say that most therapists would be open to having that conversation if you came to a session and said, honestly, I couldn't stand what you did last time, or I just couldn't get it out of my head what you said to me. I'm generally okay with that, and I think therapists are trained in that. It's called reflexive practice, to reflect on what we're bringing to the session. Where are our blind spots, or where they might be? And, hopefully you can work together with your therapist and be able to work through and at least figure it out. And if you can't figure out a way to go forward, maybe you figure out a way to end that relationship well. So that's about all I had for this week. As I said before, if you see value in this content, please feel free to like, subscribe, share videos. I would love comments about what your experiences have been. If there's anything else that I can cover in these videos, I'm always happy to hear it. But in the meantime, you be kind to yourselves, friends, and we will see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.